I was having a bit of a hard time starting this video because I wasn't really sure how to start this video. So this is like my third take here trying to intro the video. I want to talk about self-hatred and self-loathing. It's something that I've been dealing with, and I want to kind of talk about it in hopes that other people can kind of understand, and in hopes that maybe I could reach out and somebody could learn from this, or maybe do some introspection on themselves, and so you can know a little bit more about me. So last year I went through a lot of stuff up in my private life, and it was actually the year before. It was 2017 when it first started, and I was doing these really bad things, and I was doing, I had a lot of anger issues and things like that, and I had a lot of, I guess you can say, just suppressed, I didn't know what it was, but there was something I could tell was wrong with me, and I was doing a lot of really dumb things and saying a lot of dumb things. So and a lot of this isn't even on the internet, so some people won't even know about it. Some people will see me saying dumb things. It's just how it is. So what I did was I decided to go get help, and I went to go talk to a psychologist, a counselor, a therapist, whatever, because I wanted to see if there was something wrong with me, mostly because I believe that every person on earth has to go see a counselor at some point. Even if you're out there and you think, I don't need one, you probably do, honestly, because nobody's perfect, especially growing up in this world, right? So I went to go see this counselor, this therapist, and I saw him for about 7 months of sessions. And we discovered some things about me. I discovered things about me that I did not know. And one of the things that I discovered about me, which is a very deep thing, and I've talked to my friends about this, but this is the first time I'm actually talking about it publicly. It might not be the first time, but I'm actually covering it in detail, is that I have something that's called self-hatred and self-loathing. Now, I had no idea that I had this. I literally had no idea. I went through my teens and my 20s, and now I'm in my early 30s. No idea that I had self-loathing and self-hatred. I had no idea. And basically what it was, and this is the scary part about it, is that it was being suppressed by my subconscious. You don't realize these things. You don't have awareness of these things on the surface level. It's all inside of you. So my behavior and the way I would lash out at people and things like that, a lot of that had to do with self-hatred and self-loathing, but I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know what it was. I thought I just had a short fuse, which I still do. It's kind of funny because if you go back all the way back to my old channel, my original channel, Geekdom 101, right, the Dragon Ball channel, I have a speakdom on there about me having a temper, how I was going to go get counseling, and I did go get counseling for about a month, but this time I really took it seriously in 2017, 2018. And basically, I found I had self-hatred and self-loathing, and a lot of this was manifested from my childhood. I was bullied a lot. I was made fun of a lot because I was a fat kid, because I didn't speak English very well. I wore glasses. I had bad teeth. Luckily, I've lost a lot of weight since then, and my glasses are not really a problem. Because, back in the day, you wore glasses, you were a nerd. That's not the case anymore. And, my teeth have been fixed, so I'm good to go. But for a while there, I was just... I got bullied bad, and I didn't realize how much it affected me. It made me an angry young man, is what it did. And you hear these stories about these kids who get bullied, and then they end up, committing crimes and things like that. I never went that far with it, but boy, did I want to hurt some people. And I don't mean innocent people. I mean the ones who were bullying me. It was bad, dude. Bullying really does affect you, dude. You just don't realize it. Not every kid who gets bullied is crazy, and I'm not saying that I'm a victim here, because hazing and stuff like that happens, to boys when you're younger, but, I didn't realize the effect it had. Plus, there were other things like my parents, and their utter lack of not smoking, of quitting smoking. I would beg them to quit, and they would lie to me. Like, dude, my parents lied to me. I love my mom and dad. They're no longer with us, as I've talked about in previous videos. My parents lied to me a lot, dude, and I developed like a weird sort of hatred for them. And I don't hate them, obviously, I love them, but, there was that like resentment towards them, you know what I mean? Because they lied to me a lot. They lied to me a lot, to my face, and they treated me like I was an idiot. There was times when my mom would straight up tell me I'm not smoking. I would see the cigarette in her hand. She's hiding it behind her back. I'm like 18. She thought I was a little kid or something. Do you think I'm an idiot? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, and that shit pisses me off. And so I started building up like a lot of anger and resentment and things like that. It didn't really come out, like manifest itself, but after a while it did, And so I found out that I had self-hatred and self-loathing, and as a result of that, what happens is you build up defense mechanisms. You know what I'm saying? You end up, for certain things, you have certain things that trigger you. A lot of people on the internet use the word triggered, and they make fun of people being triggered. But what they don't understand is, number one, I'm not triggered by the internet. I'm not. But understand that some people are, and I have been in the past. I'm not saying I've never been, but I'm better than I was before now. But some people have been in the past. And once in a while I'll have a relapse. I mean, I'm not perfect, but I'm a lot better than I was before. But when you say triggered, right, even if you're trying to say it in a joking way or whatever, or you're trying to troll, that person might actually be legit triggered. And they might actually be feeling a certain way. They might actually feel hurt. They might feel self-hatred. You see what I'm saying? Now, my self-hatred was different than other people's self-hatred. And this is kind of the deep part. And I want to know how it relates to you. Or, I mean, you don't have to tell me, but I want you to think about it. Some people, when they have self-hatred, they also do what's called self-harm, which is, they'll cut themselves and things like that, which I don't ever condone. I don't think people should do it, but people do it. And of course, you have people who take it too far and take their own lives. I wasn't that kind of self-hater. You've also got the self-depreciation people, the ones who are always devaluing and undervaluing themselves. You know what I'm saying? They're hurting themselves, and what ends up happening is, that wasn't me. Some people do that. Some of y'all do that, I'm sure. That wasn't me. My thing was that I had a very high wall, a very high defense mechanism, and then what ends up happening is that ends up kind of bleeding into narcissism in a way. Now, I don't think that I'm a narcissistic person, but I think that I have narcissistic tendencies, you know what I'm saying, based on the self-hatred. And going to counseling has kind of helped me a lot as far as understanding, what these things really are and how I can kind of sit back and try to control them as best I can, because it doesn't just go away. There's no pill you can take to make this go away, dude. This is an actual, part of your personality, and in some cases it can actually become a borderline or a narcissistic personality disorder. Some of y'all have that. I don't have that, or at least I've never been diagnosed with it, but I have friends who do. And so you end up sort of, as a narcissist, people think, when you're a narcissist, it means you're an egomaniac. That's not necessarily the case, but you have this sort of weird opinion of yourself where you try to celebrate your accomplishments while you subconsciously feel like you haven't accomplished anything and you're undeserving. See what I'm saying? It's a weird sort of thing. It's like your brain is playing tricks on you here, and this happened to me, and it still happens from time to time, where and some people are different. Like, some people aren't really comfortable in their own skin sometimes. They have these weird fears. For me, my biggest fear was going homeless. And that's another thing we found out from the counseling session, because I was homeless in 2009. We found out that I actually have post-traumatic stress disorder. I have legit PTSD from it. So my entire motivation in life is to never go homeless again. Make the most amount of money, get a house, whatever. So I got a house and I paid off my house, and I'm very happy about that. So me being homeless right now is next to impossible. All I have to pay is property tax a year, and even if I don't, it takes years for it to take your house away in Florida. So I'm good. I'm never going to be homeless ever again for the rest of my life, most likely, right? Very slim chance. But I'm still having those fears, and that's where it's real PTSD. It's beyond just the fear. You've actually resolved the problem that caused your fear, but you still have that fear. I still have this fear of going broke, which is similar to going homeless, right? I still have that fear because I've been broke before so many times. It affects you. And that, of course, leads to this weird narcissism where now I'm doing good, now I have money, I'm happy, and I'm happy for my accomplishments, but deep down inside, it's like I kind of hate myself because there's other people I care about that I wish were where I was at, and I don't want them to be envious of me. I have to be careful. I don't want to brag about my success to them, right? Or what I consider success. I did a whole video on that before. But at the same time, I want to kind of inspire them to kind of do the same, so it's like a weird trap that I'm in, a weird sort of trap, dude. And I don't know if any of y'all really understand. I'm sure some of you do. It's hard to explain. So what was happening was, and this is where things get really deep, is because of my self-hatred and self-loathing, I was actually self-sabotaging my friendships and relationships. There was a time where I would get into fights with all of my friends and women I was with and things like that. Like, this was a very reoccurring thing. And obviously when this happens, you're like, oh, well, it's, they're pricks, they're bad. Your own ego tells you it's not you. But the reality is that it is you, or at least that's part of it is you. Part of the problem is you. And what was actually going on was, and this is going to be deep stuff right here. Some of y'all may never have heard of this, but it's true. I swear to you it's true if you look it up. I was self-sabotaging relationships and friendships because I felt like I was unworthy of them. So I was doing things that would lead to my partner or my friend not liking me or pushing them away. You see this, some of y'all have probably dated people like this, and there's different extremes. Mine was thankfully not that bad, but I've actually seen situations with men where, and women too, but mostly with men, where they'll go out and they'll actually cheat, and they'll purposely try to get caught cheating so the woman will leave them, right? Because they feel undeserving of the woman. It's crazy. You know what I mean? I've seen that. Like, I've seen it, and it's such a weird thing. It's so strange, dude. And I actually saw a woman do this once too. Because she felt like the man was unworthy of her. She also had borderline personality disorder. She had an extreme case. But this is something it's new to me. I'm still learning about it, but it's very real. If you are maybe suspicious you might have this issue, I would absolutely try to seek counseling. I know it's not cheap. I know that, but it's definitely worth it if you find a good counselor. Also, try to have a better relationship with yourself and work on your self-esteem. I'm building mine as we speak. I am a pretty confident guy when it comes to certain things, and that's why people like me, and some people don't like me because I have a lot of confidence, and I speak very curt and very blunt, right? But at the same time, that's me. That's just who I am, and I like those traits about myself. But there's still some self-esteem issues there. There's still things from my past that are still kind of rumbling, and there's a few things that do trigger me, like, people not trusting me when I'm a trustworthy person. That kind of stuff still bothers me. People calling me a liar, that actually still bothers me. And even though I shouldn't listen to them, it does still bother me because I'm not a liar. You see what I'm saying? I'm not. But it's a good idea to kind of self-analyze yourself. And honestly, if you have self-hatred and self-loathing, right, I would advise you not to date anybody. You know how they say, if you don't love yourself, you can't love somebody else? That there's truth to that, and that has to do with the self-loathing thing. If you don't love yourself and you have self-hatred and self-loathing, you may ruin that relationship. You may actually be the cause of that relationship falling apart, and you might not even realize it, dude. You might not even know what you're doing because it's all subconscious. They might not know what you're doing. You have to have a lot of self-awareness and training to kind of train yourself to stop yourself from doing these things. It takes time. It could take years. But don't be intimidated by that. It might not take years. It might take just a few months, or maybe you don't have it. But if you think you have it, I would definitely try to avoid that. And also, some people who have self-hatred aren't really good at taking compliments. And, I think it's a good idea to kind of sit down and kind of write down things you like about yourself. That's a good little exercise. Like, write down like 10 things you like about yourself. That can help. Doing things like that can help. It won't always help, but it can help. And also, the important thing that I've learned from this is forgiveness, which I did a video about back in April. It's important to not hold grudges, if you ask me. And a lot of times when you hold a grudge with somebody, it's you more than them. I have known people who have held grudges 10 to 15 years after the drama first happened. The other person moved on with their life, but they held a grudge for a very, very long time. And it's just mind-blowing. Like, it's mind-blowing. And yeah, I mean, what can you do? Anyways, I'm going to wrap up this video. I'm going to think of more topics like this and maybe delve into this more in the future. But think about it. It's something to think about, you know, or maybe think about somebody who you care about who might be going through this and not realizing. And I'm sure most of you guys have people who hate themselves and, you know, they might need help, or they might need, a lot of times just talking to somebody can help. A lot of times being a good friend can help. This is not one of those situations where you need prescription medicine or things. You don't need pills, or, I mean, if you have depression, depression can also lead to self-loathing and self-hatred. They do go together, right? But if you don't have clinical depression, if you don't have that, a lot of times just talking can help. But even if you do have clinical depression, you're on meds, talking can help a little bit with that too. You know, talking and having friends have your back is always a good thing. You know, not validators, people who care about you. Anyways, that's it. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this Speak Them. Talk to you soon.